Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and Rick and Morty Season 4, Episode 5 finally addressed some subject matter that they promised they never would address: weightlessness. Also time travel. But the time travel works so well this episode, largely because it was preceded by impressively animated visual storytelling with no dialogue, just hissing, and insane attention to detail. So let us break down all the subtle jokes and animation details that you might have overlooked here. Starting with the episode's title, Rattlestar Ricklactica, a nod, of course, to Battlestar Galactica, a sci-fi series likely chosen for the rattle pun and as kind of a throwaway to hide the time travel twist, similar to the Ricklantis mix-up title as a misdirect from the Return of Evil Morty. As the episode opens, Rick uses two of his opening lines to diss both Santa Claus and Jesus Christ as Christmas approaches.
Don't train your child to lie, Jerry, even though, you know, 'tis the season. Which makes you neutrally buoyant, which I find personally more impressive conceptually than walking on water. But what do I know? I wasn't born into the God business. I f***ing earned it.
After getting a flat tire in space, Rick reveals some new features of his ship.
I thought it was cooler than the celebrity voice package, but here.
Flat tire. You should be walking.
This Christopher Walken joke sets up an amazing callback later this episode.
Why wouldn't I?
Jerry, I paused Beth with a device Christopher Walken gave me after a record session.
This joke works brilliantly on three levels. First as a callback, second as a nod to the fact that Walken takes these weird pauses whenever he talks, and third, a nod to the movie Click, in which Chris Walken gives Adam Sandler a remote that can control his life like a recording. Rick repeatedly warns and scolds Morty about staying in the ship this episode.
I've seen this movie. Two guys leave the ship, one guy goes spinning away.
He's referencing a ton of movies, 2001: A Space Odyssey and Gravity, with the female astronaut in that movie connecting to the female snake astronaut that bites Morty. Rick compares space to SNL.
People think space is like Saturday Night Live. You see it every day, so you dream of being in it. But it dreams of removing all the air from your body and making you float around it for eternity as a flash mummified corpse.
This is the writers referring to how, for many comedians, SNL seems like a dream gig, but for many who have worked on that show, it crushes their souls and eternally labels them as failures. As Morty starts to slowly fade away from the snake poison, he wails,
I can see the Black Mountain.
Now, I don't think this is a reference to anything in particular. There is a band, Black Mountain, there's a Led Zeppelin track, but I just think this is another example of Lovecraftian cosmic horror and how Morty is destined for hell, something that we have gotten a glimpse of before.
Lambs to the cosmic slaughter!
Rick acquires the anti-venom from the snake planet, and on his screen we start to see all the snake planet details that the animator snuck into this episode. There are snakes with guns and berets, refugee snakes, a snake prison, and a snake military parade with ICBMs in a wavy serpentine shape, and of course, snake jazz.
Ha! Idiots.
Meanwhile, Jerry tries to use his bounce to beat some guys in basketball, but accidentally makes them think he's racist.
Because I have a certain power, I wanted to kind of celebrate before it goes away.
Yo, we got a Nazi up here.
I love how the guy's eyebrows go up the moment Jerry says certain power. Yikes. Morty mourns the snake he killed with two R2-D2 candles and then heads to the pet store to find a replacement snake. This store is filled with little Easter eggs. Morty's old dog Snuffles from season 1 is on dog food packaging. There's a meaningless sign, our prices are cold-blooded, whatever that means. And then a Reptilax, laxative for reptiles, I presume? As Morty steals Rick's keys, there's the Interdimensional Cable on the TV playing audio from a Plumbus commercial.
Everyone has a Plumbus in their home. First, they take the dingle bomb.
And then Morty tosses Slippy down to the snake planet, in which the animators went crazy to make everything snake-like. The snake radar tech reads a snake Playboy with an extra long centerfold. Other snakes play baseball, and the flagpoles in the background are serpentine, as are all of the poles and columns and architecture of every building on this planet, as well as many of the roads we see in overhead shots. A snake newspaper shows the snake written language, in which it's all just based on S. The ship that rescues Slippy is the SS, and all the ships have fangs, as do all the military vehicles, and the news logo. There's a snake president in a snake White House briefing room. His collar is popped like the neck of a cobra. His presidential seal has snakes on it. And in the background, there's a mural of the snake George Washington crossing the Delaware. And in the doctor's office, we see snake x-rays, which is just like a line. It's a linear shape. And the snake government recruits a linguistics professor, which is similar to the plot of movies like Arrival, in which Amy Adams uses her language expertise to help the government connect with aliens. Slippy, as a female astronaut returning to Earth different, is also similar to the plots of stories like Lucy in the Sky, Extant, and Gravity, and Contact. And when the snake professor arrives, you can see how the Washington Monument is also serpentine, and a random little detail I liked, he uses his briefcase to cover his head in the rain. So Slippy's containment room's floor is covered in wood chips, like a pet snake cage, and the professor successfully translates the earth snake hiss, and Slippy has sex with him. This is actually what it looks like when snakes bang. I know, it's terrifying. And so by breaking the language barrier between the snakes, this is how the formerly racist snakes are able to advance technologically. Meanwhile, Rick, Morty, and Summer play Downbeat, the nonsensical board game that they played in the season 3 episode Rick Mancing the Stone. And when Rick takes Beth to look for Jerry, we see how Rick keeps DNA of other characters to partially clone them into barely alive but vocal, monstrous alternatives for when they go missing. Besides Jerry, Rick also has math teacher for Mr. Goldenfold, pizza guy, Summer, and Cop 7. Jerry weighs himself down with a rock and heads into a biker bar named Devil's Teat. A sign reads, "All Biker Dance." Adorable. Jerry fears the multiple fans on the ceiling inside, similar to the fizzy lifting drink scene in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. And speaking of fizzy drinks, I love that Jerry orders a Diet Sprite remix drink that was introduced and phased out in the early 2000s. Summer dances to snake jazz at a slumber party with returning characters Trisha, whom Summer's ex Ethan left her for in the Whirly Dirly Conspiracy episode, and her nerdy band friend Nancy from season 1.
Can you alter the course of a species' evolution like that without repercussion? Gee, I don't know, Nancy. Can you alter the course of being a giant nerd? Sorry.
Also later, we need to discuss your clothing and your weight.
That's fair.
Morty appears to be mid-tug as the first snake assassin appears from the future via an orb with a leather jacket snake killing him with a shotgun, both nods to the Terminator series, along with the T-800 style snake protector from the future Resistance made with an appearance to try to appeal to humans. The snake robots call Morty the Ape Child, a callback to the season premiere in which Wasp Rick shows how through other species' eyes, humans being descended from apes is equally weird to them. And during this brawl in the garage, you can see how the time travel stuff box is tipped over with its contents spilled out everywhere, reflecting how this episode is finally playing with time travel and breaking the no time travel rule. There's a Sarah Connor style monologue explaining the post-apocalyptic snake future with snake robots crushing snake skulls. Like in T2 Judgment Day, there are snake hovercrafts and snake rovers with fangs. Instead of Skynet, there's SnakeNet. Morty and Rick break into the present day SnakeNet HQ in the Pentagon.
Resistance is mouse-like.
Of course, a parody of Resistance is Futile, but with mice, which Snake consider weak and inferior. Slippy is now a Sarah Connor type mother figure protecting her John Connor babies from robot snakes and a time-traveling muscle snake like Arnold. Rick defeats one snake by giving him legs, making him clumsy, and when they break into the snake lab, one of the snake scientists offs himself. Rick has to finish inventing time travel for the snakes and receives the tech and snake suits from the future Rick and future Morty, sending them to Snake MIT in 1985. Now here, you can see Snake B-Boys, one with kid and play hair, snakes doing blow, one has a popped collar and an anarchy pin. There's a female snake wearing 80s fashion, and she joins the snake with an 80s cell phone. Inside the lab, there are posters for Snake Back to the Future and Snake Michael Jackson's Bad and a Rubik's Cube. And a few snake nerds show up after. One has a mullet and a shirt with a rainbow banana for the old school Apple logo. I guess bananas are the more serpentine-shaped fruit. The 80s snakes fast track and overdo time travel. They seek to prevent Lincoln's assassination in 1865 with Ford's Snake Theater, of course, covered in serpentine imagery. Snake Lincoln and Snake Mary Todd sit in a booth with Snake George Washington's portrait there and dodge a bullet from Snake John Wilkes Booth. And back in the present, the butterfly effect causes reality to have been reset as a Nazi one, a callback to the fascist dimensions of the season premiere. His snake friend Sig Heils, and the walls are covered in snake swastikas and a bust of Snake Lincoln with a Hitler mustache and a dead mouse in a jar underneath, which is kind of funny because a lot of thought experiments have speculated that President Lincoln was a bit fascist. He did suspend habeas corpus. Not saying it was good that he died, we just don't know how history would have played out. In Snake Berlin in 1938, Snake Hitler salutes his followers, all of whom have rattlers, suggesting maybe a racial divide might be based on rattlers versus plain tails. Snake Hitler's mansion has wall art of a snake with eagle wings and a framed portrait of a German Shepherd, the most racist dog. And his bathroom has busts of a devil snake from the Garden of Eden with the forbidden fruit. And while in the shower, Snake Hitler finds himself at the center of many time travel thought experiments with assassins killing each other by the dozens, one of whom has an Arnold haircut. Meanwhile, Jerry accepts his fate and scrolls through photos of his family, Beth carrying him on their wedding day, Morty cleaning a knee scrape, Jerry in an apron delivering a drink to Rick. Jerry has to leave a voicemail since Beth hasn't saved his number on her phone, and he finds a plane to hang from, even though the pilots are doing Molly. As his fingernails bleed, Jerry refuses help from a savior human-snake hybrid. It holds open a baby Bjorn for him to slip into. But Jerry thinks it's a Rick trick, and he kicks the snake into the jet engine, bringing down the plane, making Jerry yet another member of the Smith family responsible for mass murder. On the ground, the snake melee continues, one snake on fire, a cowboy snake fights a pharaoh snake, whatever. And this alerts the time cops, including Schleemy Pants, Keegan-Michael Key's character from the Wrinkle in Time Season 2 episode. Their HQ is in the 4th dimension, with floating Schrodinger's cats from that episode, and the surrounding space reflecting the Tesseract design from the movie Interstellar. The two of them jump back in time to the Stone Age times of snake history to beat up the very first snake to use primitive technology. On the cave walls behind them, there are cave paintings of snakes hunting woolly mammoths and blood spatter, but with a snake tail outline. So the snakes of the present day eat their own tails, reflecting how closed-loop time travel plots themselves are, in a sense, snakes eating their own tails. Rick confiscates Morty's adventure punch card, calling back the last time Morty filled that card in the Season 3 Vindicators episode. The post-credits scene officially closes this loop, with Rick and Morty having to finish inventing time travel and sewing those dumb snake costumes to give back to their past selves. And the reveal of how Morty got that black eye, his grandfather punching him, closing on a literal punchline. And that Christmas card there naturally spells Christmas with multiple S's. Comment down below with your favorite joke of this episode, and be sure to check out this week's episode of Ricksplained with Abed Gaith and Jessica Chobot, where we explain the inner workings of time travel this episode. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Erik Voss. Subscribe to Rockstars for breakdowns of everything you love, and we'll see you in the new year when we break down the second half of this season of Rick and Morty. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.